Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by the generosity of the following companies. The Old Mill Press, publishing beautifully crafted books that illuminate our world. To learn more, visit theoldmillpress.com. And by listeners like you.
Ladies, remember this as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock Podcast. Proceed at your own risk and mark well-me words, ladies. Dead men tell no tale.
Welcome back to yet another edition of Skull Rock Podcast, the show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming, what's in theaters, and what's happening in this universe of entertainment. I'm Aljon Go, your co-host and musician, longtime Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, and pop culturist, and you can email me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, Disney historian, author, and traveling man. Welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on the Skull Rock YouTube channel. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. Aljon, I'm dropping in to say hi. How are you? It's been a while.
Hey, Dave. Welcome back to the show. We missed you. I know that it's been crazy, a whirlwind of stuff happening in your neck of the woods, in your world, but we're glad to have you for this episode.
I'm happy to be here. And, Aljon, as most people know, I've been moving, and it is crazy. I haven't moved in 30 years. So packing up a house that I've regularly have said was a clown house from the standpoint there was so much stuff stuffed in it, So... But we managed to get into the new house. All the stuff is moved in. We've got a lot of it unpacked. And just about everything has survived.
Awesome. That is a miracle in and of itself. I remember when I moved. When I moved, there was things missing. Like we had like our big old ladder, like our 2-story ladder that I had in the garage, and the thing was missing. I'm like, guys, come on. And they'll reimburse me. And then, of course, there was like mirrors that had cracked and broken. These guys were just like, it was just a crap show with these guys. So I'm never using it again.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. I mean, we were fortunate because, my Kem Weber desk showed up really in great condition and was, the only thing I was concerned about, they had to carry it up a flight of stairs into my new office. And that's there. I had a lot of, valuable collectibles and, framed art and all kinds of stuff. Virtually all of it has shown up in good condition. I had one picture that has a crack in the glass. But other than that, everything else is intact. So amazing. I'm very happy about that.
That's amazing. What care and attention to detail did your movers have? Because they did an amazing job. I saw the photo you posted of the Kem Weber desk being moved up there, and they even like roped off the banister and put padding against it just in case they happen to run into stuff. I mean, that's always been my fear, is that things are going to get scraped and scratched and banged, and you're going to have to repaint and do everything. But they seem to have done a wonderful job.
All I can say is you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
If you're only driven by price and you go with the lowest price, you're going to wind up paying on the other end somehow, with stuff being broken or damaged. But these guys were absolute professionals, and they brought that desk in sections up to my office, and it was almost as if each section was floating above them because they didn't touch the banisters or the walls. There was no damage to the new house at all. And they got it into the office and put it back together the way I wanted it. I'm absolutely thrilled by that. Awesome. I don't ever want to move again, Aljon. I don't ever want to do it again. It's just so stressful. And, we're going to be unpacking boxes probably for months. And by the way, through this process, I've heard from, some of our listeners, Chris Banis, who's over on the Grand Circle Tour podcast and is a friend of ours. She sent me a note about her move within the last couple of years and stuff gone missing, and it was heartbreaking to hear some of these stories.
Yeah. Yeah, we were lucky. We used the moving service that the Nashville Predators hockey team uses, and usually they're really good. It just, we had, I guess we had the B squad, working with us, but it's always crazy when those things happen. Regardless, I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy that you're getting situated and getting unpacked. And I tell you what else I'm happy with. It's Bill Kroyer month on this show.
It is Bill Kroyer month here because we are dropping part 2 of our extensive interview with animator, director, author, professor Bill Kroyer. We've been getting a lot of nice comments on social media about that.
I love it. I mean, it's great when you have somebody that has worked in so many great facets and have been such a contributor in terms of pop culture and animation, especially computer animation, which is fascinating. So everybody that's, listening to the show who are students of the game, listen up because the professor's in session. He's hanging out with us, and it's absolutely amazing the stories he's telling for this.
Yeah, and he was there at the beginning.
Yes. Oh, I mean, he he's already been celebrated as a legendary filmmaker, but, he really needs to get his flowers because, yes, he's kind of the pioneer.
Yeah. All this. He really has been. And, again, some real nice comments on social media. Maybe we can hit a few of those.
Absolutely. Let me filter through them. But before we do that, we may go out of order here. And I know it's been busy for you, but we do have, let's go into our picks of the week while I look at some of the social media stuff. Dave, I know you've been very busy over the past few weeks while Kat was kind of sitting in for you. Were you able to catch up with anything?
And Aljon, I do want to say thank you, Kat, for filling in. You've been a great co-host with Aljon, and I really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see her again real soon. But what have you been checking out?
Well, I did watch a movie on Netflix. I'm able to get into my Netflix account at the hotel we're staying at. And I watched the Thursday Murder Club.
Oh, okay.
And this is based on a series of books. And Aljon, this was really, I thought, a fun movie with an incredible cast. Mm-hmm. Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, Ben Kingsley, Celia Emiri. Let me see who else was in here that I think is Jonathan Pryce, David Tennant, Daniel Mays. I mean, it's just an absolute star-studded cast. Rotten Tomatoes only gives it 76%. And 62% of people who watched it liked it, but I liked it. I thought it was an enjoyable film, partially because of the great cast and the great performances from that cast. So for me, I'd recommend the Thursday Murder Club. And by the way, Helen Mirren and Pierce Brosnan have great screen chemistry. The two of them are in a show called Mobland that I've talked about a number of times over the months. Mobland is over, I believe, on Paramount Plus. Has been picked up for a second season. So they've got great chemistry. It's just, it was an enjoyable, not very taxing film to watch. And I enjoyed watching it in a hotel room.
Nice. Very good.
That's all I've watched in the last couple of weeks because I've been on the road all over the place.
Hey, I get it. I totally get it. Well, Dave, For me, I hadn't watched a whole lot either because it's been a really busy time for me. Having said that, I wanted to draw some attention to Princess Week over there at Disney. Disneyland had an amazing Inside the Princess Disney reunion. There was a post at Entertainment Tonight had checked out, had posted, and you had a bunch of really cool princesses, the voice actors behind Moana, Tiana, Ariel, Belle, Meg. They were all hanging out. So that's Auli Carvalho from Moana, Anika Noni Rose, of course, from Princess and the Frog, Jodie Benson, Little Mermaid, Paige O'Hara, Belle, and Susan Egan, who played Meg. And then also Jennifer Goodwin, who played Snow White in Once Upon a Time, was hosting, which was great. She is also Judy Hopps from Zootopia, but they kind of came together to do this really great medley for Princess Week. And I love music so much, it brings me to tears. Anytime I can hear the music swell up in the magnificent Disney scores of all the movies, and the princess characters come out and their original voices out there, singing and performing the song, putting everything they have out there. They're so pro. And my kids absolutely love it. They came out and I said, guys, listen, just close your eyes and listen. And they're like, that's Belle, or that's Ariel, or that's Tiana. I'm like, that made me so proud. I'm like, kids, you are nailing it. And they did such a great job with the music and the lighting. And so if you go on YouTube, check out Disney Princess Week on the Disney YouTube channel for them singing. It was just really nice for the 70th anniversary of Disneyland. You had the princesses come out with the performance was just great. So check that out. And the entertainment, the Entertainment Tonight interview was very good as well. Check that out. I've also been, I'm enamored, as you all know, with music. And one of my favorite podcasts, the One Song Podcast, is something you need to check out because they absolutely go behind the scenes, much like they do deep dives into individual songs and tell you about the song writing and the making of the song, playing individual tracks or the stems, if you will. So you'll hear isolated vocals and the way things were kind of all put together. And they had one song recently with Olivia Rodrigo's Good For You, where they kind of break down everything about the song and the inspirations. And this song has had parts of it kind of interpolated because it's a very simple chord progression and different things that get put into the song. If you like The Cure and the 80s, if you like pop punk, you'll dig this song. So they do a really good job. The hosts do a really good job of putting it together. And they also did a breakdown recently of the Beach Boys' God Only Knows, which is one of my favorite Beach Boys songs of all time. One of the best songs ever crafted by humans ever. And Dave, you can relate to that since you're a big music fan yourself. It's just fascinating stuff. So please do yourself a favor, go out of your way to check out the One Song Podcast.
Awesome.
And that's what we've been checking out this week. What have you been checking out? Let us know, and maybe we'll review it in an upcoming episode.
Skull Rock Podcast. This week in Disney and pop culture.
Announcements for Destination D23 that happened over the week and the weekend. Man, I tell you, I am looking forward to seeing Avengers Doomsday. And Joe, the Russo brothers, ended up doing a little panel and sharing a little bit of some fun with Paul Rudd during that event, which was really cool. And I'm just looking forward to it. Joe and Anthony Russo talking about Doomsday, and I'm looking forward to that. A bunch of other films will also be teased as well. Disney Hexed will debut in 2026. It's an all-new original film that follows a teenage oddball and his mom who discover his weirdness is actually hidden magic. We'll see how that works. I'm hoping that Disney's turning things around. Zootopia 2 hits November 26th of this year, which is great. It's going to have Patrick Warburton. Of course, let's see here. Yvette Nicole Brown. So those are some new kind of voiceover actors coming into the fold. And Yvette Nicole Brown's great, and Patrick Warburton is awesome. Dave, have you ever worked with Patrick Warburton?
No, I never did, but heard he's a very nice guy.
Yeah, I've heard the same. We have a new Ice Age Boiling Point that's going to be hitting theaters in 2027. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which is really great as well. Also coming to Disney Plus later this year, December of this year. More Pixar films were also teased. Gato in 2027. Incredibles 3, Dave. They're working on that.
Looking forward to that one.
Yes. And Coco 2 in 2028, which is going to be great. Toy Story 5, Dave, 2026 this summer. Coming up. I can't believe it.
My God, they keep milking that one.
Yeah. Conan O'Brien's joining the cast for a new character called Smarty Pants, which if Conan's involved, it's got to be nice, right? It's going to be funny.
It's going to be funny, yes.
Yeah. And then Pixar's Hoppers hits theaters in 2026 as well. It features Piper Cruda, Bobby Moynihan, and John Hamm. It'll follow Mabel, an animal lover whose mind is transferred into a robotic beaver to communicate with animals. We've talked about maybe about this trailer. It's hilarious, and I think it's going to be a big hit for Pixar. It's kind of like Freakier Friday, but with AI and a little bit of Megan craziness put in there. Kind of crazy. Tron Light Cycle Run will get a special overlay with Tron Ares this fall. I'm looking forward to that. So it's going to be happening over there September 15th, just a few days away, over there in the Magic Kingdom and also in Shanghai. And there's a new Disneyland documentary coming to Plus, Dave. It's called Handcrafted Disneyland. Have you seen the trailer for this at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so this is done by iWorks. So this is...
Leslie iWorks.
Leslie iWorks is doing it, and it's rarely seen footage from the Walt Disney Archives of the development of Disneyland. And I can say, Dave, it looks amazing. Apparently, there's a huge amount of footage, the building from scratch of Disneyland that was documented on film that had never been released.
Yeah.
And
in fact, I think that there's... some time lapse,
yes,
footage of some of the buildings going up. I remember seeing that years ago.
Dave, I know that you've been intimately involved in a lot of those projects with the archives and things in the past, and it's going to be amazing. The footage looks so good, crisp, clear. The Foley work that they're doing, if they're doing any type of Foley work, like the audio, is amazing. It looks brand new. When I saw it, I was like, how did they enhance this with AI? What did they do? It looks so good. Yeah. So check this out. It is Disneyland Handcrafted, and it's going to be debuting on Disney Plus in December, says this winter. So looking forward to that. It looks absolutely amazing. Speaking of Walt, Dave, so the Much Ado animatronic of Walt Disney, it's over there at Disneyland right now, over there in the Magic. I'm sorry.
I think we've said a lot about this.
Have said a lot about it.
Yes.
But what people don't know is that it's coming to the Walt Disney Resort. All right. So we've talked about it. It's been very heavily criticized. Walt Disney Magical Life at Disneyland is going into the Walt Disney Carousel of Progress over there in Magic Kingdom, Walt Disney World. So I'll be able to hopefully check that out myself. Will be added to a brand new introductory scene for the Carousel of Progress, offering guests a chance to hear from the legendary man who celebrated progress, with more details to be revealed in the future. So I can only imagine that the very beginning of the Carousel of Progress, in the very first scene where you open up and there's the logo for the Carousel of Progress, they're probably going to put him in there, with the reveal of him in the blue cardigan sweater, talking about the future Epcot as it will, the future city of tomorrow and all that stuff that you talk about all the time, Dave. So
Aljon, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Have you seen any positive reviews?
I would say it's 1 out of 5. No, we were, so when you had taken some time and I had Kat on the show, we talked about it initially, and she actually went there and experienced it.
Okay.
And she said herself that when you're there, it takes on a life of its own. So, you feel that it's Walt talking to you. And this is coming from her, and her experience in film and experiential producing. She does a lot of the same stuff, putting together these types of exhibits.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, her take on it. And she wasn't hating it at all. She said,
okay, cool.
Yeah, she's critical, but she also understands that when you're sitting far away, I think, and not up close, that the vibe is captured there. So we understand that, maybe some considerations were made because of the animatronic and the skinning of the animatronic and trying to keep proportions the way they are. Because the scale will have to change, right? So if the animatronic is a little bit too big, maybe they had to have made some considerations for that and change everything if they had to change the scale of it. So I get it, But what would you have done, Dave? I mean, if the animatronic is a little bit too big, would you have changed the scale of everything to accommodate it?
Honestly, when you tackle something like this, you are automatically going to open yourself up to some kind of criticism, because there's always going to be somebody out there that has no connection to it whatsoever, but thinks they know everything, and they're going to, criticize it because they weren't involved with it or whatever it is. From my perspective, I've only been able to see photos of the animatronic, and frankly, it doesn't quite look like Walt in those photos when they do comparisons. But, then again, I still need to go see it in person.
Maybe I think over time, the technology will get to the point where it will be even his likeness. So I think there's a lot of mitigating circumstances. I think they wanted to do something spectacular, and maybe it backfired on them a little bit because of these images of Walt have been ingrained in our consciousness for a long time. Not only that, but you have amazing bronze statues to the man, and you can see not just a 2D, but a 3D representation of what we all had in our mind. So it's difficult. They're in a difficult place, but, and
the thing that they should do is ignore that criticism and just keep moving forward, because, I mean, just this past week or so, Cracker Barrel changed their logo. And there was this huge outcry against it, whereas other companies have done these types of changes and they just said tough and they move forward, and the rhetoric dies down and they just go on. So, look, I think that you can't second guess what the public is going to say. You just have to do these projects, Exactly. I mean, frankly, when I worked on World of Color, there's always some, criticism. When World of Color opened, there were some complaints about, why is that clip in and not this movie represented, and all of those kinds of things. You're never going to satisfy everybody. So you just have to just put that out of your mind and work to do the best you can do.
Exactly. Well, speaking of Disney, Dave, just a couple notes here. Lego Disney Princesses Villains Unite, available exclusively on Disney Plus. Check it out. The all-new animated special features the voices of Anika Noni Rose as Tiana, Jodie Benson as Ariel, Mandy Moore as Rapunzel, Auli Carvalho as Moana, Richard White as Gaston, and Jonathan Freeman as Jafar. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. I know my kids will certainly do that as well. Celebration for Princess Week continues. And then also a historic concert from the Vatican City, directed by Pharrell Williams and Maestro Andrea Bocelli, to stream live exclusively on Disney Plus, Hulu, and ABC News September 13th. This is a landmark of cultural and spiritual event in the Vatican City. This looks very interesting. September 13th, 3 p.m. Eastern. and I guess I wonder if it's going to be live. But Pharrell and Andrea Bocelli is going to be doing a once-in-a-generation concert held in St. Peter's Square for the first time in history, supported by the Vatican. It marks the closing of the Third World Meeting on Human Fraternity and celebration of the 2025 Jubilee year. Very interesting stuff there. It's an interesting combination. Pharrell and Andrea Bocelli, Dave. Looks
awesome. It's awesome.
I can't wait to see it. I love these musical things. SNL is shaking up, Dave. I don't know if you have been watching SNL. I know that it's been years since I've been a frequent viewer of SNL. I catch clips every now and again on YouTube, but they've had a ton, and I say several cast members leave Saturday Night Live over the past few weeks.
There's been an exodus.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. It's an exodus of people leaving the show. It looks like we have here Heidi Gardner, who will depart after 8 seasons. It's the fourth cast member to leave the show over the past few days, following Devin Walker, Emil Wakim, and Michael Longfellow. That is crazy. And then writers Celeste Yim and Rosebud Baker have also departed as well. Gardner has been one of the longest tenured female members of the show's current cast. How about that, Dave? It's interesting because she is a very talented comedian herself.
Yeah, but SNL runs hot and cold for me. I think that I haven't really watched any of the recent seasons of SNL in probably several years. Yeah. I did watch the 50th anniversary special because they brought back a lot of key people from over the decades. But, sometimes SNL is a dud.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely that. And there have been duds over the years, but I think, I don't know. I think it just means different things to different generations. And I think growing up, and you watching the initial, run of Saturday Night Live, and me, of course, in that golden era, if you will, in the 80s and 90s.
Listen, when I watched it when Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Bill Murray, Garrett
Morris.
Lorraine Newman, Gilda Radner. That was, sort of that was an incredible group of talented, comedians that got together and did some wild stuff, and then, look, those cast members change out, and they bring in new cast members, and, you have different groups throughout the decades that are terrific. They get that energy together, and then there's other times where they're not quite gelling.
Absolutely. It's amazing stuff, but looking forward to seeing what kind of shakeups happen. I just don't know if I'm just into it. I just haven't been into it for a long time, and I guess it's going to take a lot for me to come back and watch it regularly. But having said that, what doesn't take me a whole lot to come back to is Back to the Future, Dave. It's one of my favorite trilogies of all time, probably one of the most perfectly crafted films. It's hard for me to put that in the pole position, but it's definitely one of my Mount Rushmore films. And Dave, Marty McFly and Doc Brown will be returning to the theaters for Back to the Future's 40th anniversary release. Dave, this, I think, is going to bode well for Universal. This is a highly beloved film. Of course, Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd are still here to celebrate with us, which I'm very, very glad about, because this film is, I think, one of the best films ever made, Dave. I love the Back to the Future. What do you think about Back to the Future?
No, it's a terrific trilogy. It's stood the test of time. It's still an enjoyable, any one of them is an enjoyable movie to watch.
It is going to be back in theaters. I'm going to try to carve out some time to see it in a theater myself. October 31st. Tickets are already available for purchase on
Halloween?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Isn't
Halloween?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely bizarre. I want to be able to see it myself. I can't wait to check it out. And I would think they're going to be remastering it, and like the music and the sound is going to be remastered, and I can't wait to check it out in a very, very awesome theater. And of course, the search continues. I recently posted a video for work, and we are still looking. Gibson Guitars is still looking for the infamous Back to the Future Cherry Red ES-345 that Marty McFly played in the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. So the search continues. Check out Leah Thompson's video on the Gibson YouTube channel for more. And call the channel, because you never know who will pick up the phone. Might be someone you hear on this podcast. And let's see. Also returning to theaters is the Twilight Saga. It's also returning in October, Dave. These re-releases, I think it's good to a certain degree. They've been doing a lot of that. You know, Star Wars is coming back to theaters, to a lot of people's, enjoyment, if you will. What do you think about Twilight kind of coming back? I guess it's, has it been, how many years has it been since 2012, Dave? It's been insane, but it's coming back.
12, 13 years, but you know something? I think that the generation today is starting to rediscover the theater experience, and I love the fact that they're re-releasing some of these classic films to the theaters, and not just real classic like film noir like Casablanca or The African Queen or those types of films, but more contemporary films from the last 25, 30 years. I love the fact that those are being re-released. They're being cleaned up digitally. The sound is being touched up, and they're being put back out in the theater. That's the place to see those films. You don't want to watch those films on a television. You want to watch them on a big screen in a communal experience.
Absolutely. The Twilight Saga is actually being eyed for a animated TV reboot, which will be great. I think that'll be great for fans. If it's especially done in a certain style, almost anime style or something, it'll be nice.
Aljon, everything's being eyed for a reboot because Hollywood's being run by a bunch of bean counters that have no creativity whatsoever. They're just reboot this, reboot that, Let's do a live action Jetsons. Let's reboot Green Acres.
Absolutely.
For God's sakes.
Well, speaking of reboots and remakes, have you checked out The Sphere and The Wizard of Oz being on display there?
I saw some video clips. It is really phenomenal. Again, I think that companies like Madison Square Garden Entertainment are doing a phenomenal job with the Sphere and those types of venues in creating new movie experiences. And that's what they've done with The Wizard of Oz.
It's dazzling, to say the least. I've saw some clips of them, especially during the tornado scene, where it's so immersive. They have the fans and they have debris and stuff and smoke just filling the theater. So you really do get caught up in the whirlwind that is a tornado that takes Dorothy from Kansas to the land of Oz. It's absolutely stunning. It looks amazing.
It's fantastic. I have to go to Vegas just to experience the Sphere.
I do too. Not only do we have that going on for it, but the concerts that they're hosting as well, and the residencies and things like that look absolutely amazing. I saw some footage of the Backstreet Boys concert, and it is stunning. I wanted to see U2 there as well. It's just so good.
I really want them to get to a place where they have a Sphere in every major city. And when a group like U2 plays at the Sphere in Las Vegas, you could see it in Chicago or New York or Washington, D.C. or Orlando or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I can't wait for that.
Absolutely. That's going to be a lot of fun. Technology, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of music and technology, some of the awesome music videos that I'm seeing these days pay a lot of homage to film noir, if you will. And Sabrina Carpenter's latest is no different. Her new music video, Tears, debuted just a few days ago. And it has Coleman Domingo, one of my favorite actors from the Walking Dead series, actually paying tribute to one of my favorites, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And so she has a brand new song called Tears. I have to say that Sabrina, I really enjoy Sabrina a lot. I think the machine, Dave, is so strong in over-sexualizing her. I don't really think she needs it. I really don't. I think the music stands on its own, but the imagery is super over-sexualized. But having said that, because I am an adult and I do enjoy the Rocky Horror Picture Show, I appreciate the video for what it is, which is, I think, a nice tip of the hat. Coleman Domingo is great as kind of the Frankenfurter, Tim Curry kind of person that welcomes this kind of innocent girl into this interesting world where she gets torn apart and then gets spat back out into the real world and is, once again, one of those crazy A24 type videos, Dave. So,
you know something? I think the Rocky Horror Picture Show is one of those films I always remember from the midnight showings they used to do. It just turned into a cult classic. There was always the independent movie theaters all over the country that would be doing midnight showings of that all the time.
I participated in that all throughout the later parts of high school into college, and actually played Eddie, who was Meatloaf in college.
That's awesome.
So I was the Asian Meatloaf, Dave. Asian Meatloaf. So it was, but I have an affection for that musical. It's just a lot of fun. And I think, once again, if you're an adult and you can appreciate that stuff, it's great. And I think Sabrina is doing fun stuff.
I think that was kind of the beginning of cosplay, wasn't it? Sort of, in some sense, because people were dressing up and then they would sing to all the songs throughout the screening.
100%.
I mean, it was like pandemonium in some of those theaters.
It really was, and we did the whole thing. I mean, we dressed up, we had fun, we had popcorn, and among other things that you do in the theater like that. But it was just a lot of fun, and this video, I think, is a celebration of that. So if you're a fan of the A24 kind of retro style and you like Rocky Horror Picture Show, check out the new video for Sabrina Carpenter's Tears. Speaking of rock and roll, Dave, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is moving from HBO to Disney Plus. What a move, Dave. In the past few weeks, you've had Disney Plus not only getting WWE content with ESPN and ESPN Plus, but making overtures, doing a bunch of really cool live events, including the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction.
You know, what I think is really interesting, I don't know who at Disney is doing this, but it's brilliant. They are making Disney Plus a destination for a lot of music content. You talk about the Beatles documentaries and, the Beach Boys and, all of this kind of stuff, I think, is just incredible. And it's the kind of thing that viewers want to see, especially, I think, the adult Disney fans.
I agree. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony is supposed to take place November 8th at the Peacock Theater in LA and live on Disney Plus. A bunch of artists are going to be inducted this year for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's highest honor. We have here Cyndi Lauper, Outkast, Soundgarden, White Stripes, Joe Cocker, Chubby Checker, Bad Company. And the Musical Influence Award going to Salt and Pepper and Warren Zevon. Musical Excellence Award going to Tom Bell, Nicky Hopkins, and Carol Kay, amazing musicians. And the Ahmet Ertegun Award going to Lenny Waronker. So just a bunch of great people being celebrated. Once again, it isn't without controversy. There's a bunch of different snubs that are happening again this year. As per usual, it is not a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction without having some snubs. But I am glad to finally see some rock and roll legendary performers like Bad Company, Chubby Checker, Joe Cocker, Cyndi Lauper kind of get their flowers, if you will. I'm a big fan of all of those and all the inductees. And speaking of which, Lady Gaga is set to perform at the 2025 VMAs. Abracadabra singer is leading the nominee with this year's ceremony with 12 nods in total. Not surprised by that. Lady Gaga is always amazing as we talk about music. Once again, Sabrina Carpenter, Doja Cat, Jelly Roll, Post Malone, Tate McRae, Somber, Alex Warden, Jay Belvin, DJ Snake will hit the VMA stage this year, September 7th on CBS and also on Paramount Plus. Dave, I'm looking forward to seeing it because I'm crossing my fingers. I have some guitars placed at the VMAs this year. It should be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see some of my creations on stage with some of these great musicians. Well, that wraps up our pop culture. There is no obituary roll call for this week, Dave. Surprisingly enough.
Which is a good thing. Which is absolutely a good thing. I'm glad nobody kicked the bucket this past week.
I'm glad for that as well. Anyway, I'm looking forward to that. Maybe next week we'll have that segment. You never know with this show. But now let's roll into part 2. It is Bill Kroyer month now. And by the way, I have to say that it's Labor Day weekend. So,
and we're laboring
away on Skull Rock Podcast. So check out this interview, part 2, right here with Bill Kroyer, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's chat.
So let's chat now. Let's chat afterwards. And he said, let's chat again.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Aljon, we are back again with animation director, animator, and author Bill Kroyer. And, Bill, I also should say Professor Kroyer, because you've had an illustrious career in teaching as well. But it's so great to have you back again for a second week. We ended our conversation last week, Bill, talking about, really fascinating conversation about Tron and the making of Tron and how that came to Disney and the production of it. And then you left after that was completed and you stayed in the sort of the computer graphics world and you went on to digital productions?
It was called Digital Productions, yes. And they actually found me because they wanted to be the premier digital animation studio in the world. They wanted to make, movies with computers, and they wanted to do the best work. And they had just developed something that they thought was going to be the next necessary step, and that was animation software. When I did Tron, you have to realize that there was no such thing as animation software. Nobody had written software to move things. They had written software to model things and to texture things and to light things and to render things, but nobody had written anything to help things move elegantly. So that's why Tron was such an achievement, because Jerry Reese and I had to literally almost plot out every single frame as a single frame movement to make things move. It was just dinosaur land, but it was a tough thing to do, but we did it. Now, 4 years later, Digital Productions says, we have finally written software to do human figure animation. And they found me and they said, you're like the most experienced computer animator, and there aren't many.
Really, at that time, you probably could count them on one hand.
Yeah, because there was no computer animation software. So what's an animator supposed to do? So I came into Digital Productions, and my whole book is this story of this personal transition from hand drawing in the days when hand drawing was the only thing, all the way through the step by step transition into the days when now it's completely CG. And I sometimes look at myself as kind of, that frog they put into the pot in cold water, and then they turn the water on, and the frog's not aware that he's getting it. I kind of feel that was what my career was like, because as I'm going through this constant metamorphosis of technology, you're not really aware of the historical significance of it, right? You're just getting thrown new tools at you every week, like, oh, now you got this, now you got this, now you got this. And I just said, great, I got something else I can animate with. So when I got to Digital Productions, I was so excited to find out that they'd actually written software to animate a human character. They had written a hierarchical software program. So, how is a body constructed? The elbow is connected to the wrist is connected to the fingers. Finally we had that. And it made it possible to do human figure animation. It was still very simple. I still had to type everything in. I had to type in the keyframes and type in the values, but I could do that, and then it would interpolate. They invented the interpolation was there, and so I went ahead and I animated this human figure. Now remember, at this time, 1985, computers still couldn't really render very quickly as far as they couldn't do flexible skin or anything. So we created a character out of vectors. We just called it Black Woman. And I animated Black Woman dancing to a Mick Jagger tune, Just Another Night. And it just kind of blew everybody away. I mean, it's on my website, and you can watch the test at mrinbetween.org. And when you watch it now, obviously it seems unbelievably primitive, but at the time, it was like earth-shattering, to see 3D computer graphic imagery dancing and moving like a person. And John Whitney and Gary Demas would bring visitors in and bring them to my workstation, and I'd hit the button and they'd play it. And people would be blown away, and they'd say, "Oh my God, what is that?" And Gary would say, "That's keyframe software," as if the software had done the animation. So anyway, that was, believe it or not, I think it may be the very first time anybody animated a human figure with a computer, and that was me at Digital Productions in 1984.
Yeah, because I mean, during that period, like 84 at Disney, they did a little computer animation on the Black Cauldron, but it was rigid objects. So, a little rowboat, or it was an object that wasn't flexible really, and could be keyframed. But even then, that animation was being done on an HP desktop. And you'd have to tape it up on animation paper, and then it went through the traditional ink and paint process on cell.
Well, the very sexy and the very amazing difference with Digital Productions in 1984 was that John Whitney Jr., the founder, was, of course, the son of John Whitney Sr., who was one of the, if not the pioneer of computer graphics of all time. Right after World War II, John Whitney Sr. had the idea to take a bomb sight out of a B-52 bomber, which was one of the first analog computers, and convert it to making imagery on screens. And he started to create graphic films, his most famous one being, I'm blanking now. But anyway, he started doing these beautiful, arabesque. It's called arabesque. So John Whitney Sr. started using computers to make visuals, one of the very first people to ever do it. And he got in tight with the Defense Department because he was using Defense Department equipment. And then when the Defense Department created the Cray XMP supercomputer, they were only being used in the Defense Department, and John Whitney Sr. somehow managed to convince him, take one supercomputer and put it into the graphics business, because I really believe that making images is going to be a very important thing to do for the free world. And he convinced them to give an XMP supercomputer to his son, John Whitney Jr. And they set that up in West LA, and that became Digital Productions. And the Cray XMP did 3 billion calculations per second. It had liquid Freon tubes running through it so it wouldn't melt because the circuits were so hot. It had a heat exchanger in the parking lot that was the size of a dumpster that they had to have there to pump this Freon through constantly.
Wow.
And it crashed every hour. And it came with, if you can believe this, its own team of workers from the Cray company.
Wow.
It had 4 guys who moved from Minneapolis to support this computer, and we called them crayons, of course.
That's
so
awesome.
John Whitney and Jerry Demas said, we're going to use this supercomputer to make imagery like no one has ever seen. But since it was so fast, it had to be talked to by other computers, so they set up computers to talk to it. And that's what I worked on. I worked on the backs. And so my animation would be fed into the Cray, and then it would be colored in the Cray. And I did the Black Woman test, and I just picked out the Mick Jagger song just because I liked the song.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, Mick Jagger saw it. And he called us up and he said, I want you to do my next rock video.
That's awesome.
And that's how we got the job to do Hard Woman.
And how long were you there for? How long was Digital Productions in business for?
I was there for 2 years, and the company did not last long. I think it started about a year and a half before I got there. And I came in just as they were starting to ramp up, and I was there for 2 years. And then, this terrible thing happened. I describe it in my book. John and Gary were just fanatical dreamers. They were not businessmen. And they were running up huge debts and had big loans at the bank. And there was a Canadian company called Omnibus that had set up a computer graphics studio in the Paramount lot. And they somehow got the idea that they could corner the entire computer animation market if they took over digital productions and Robert Abel. Because if you know, remember, Robert Abel was also doing stuff. He had that company called Able Image Research. They had done work on Tron.
Yeah, and then they had Abel and Associates.
And they were the same way. Bob Abel, as you know, was not the businessman. He was the dreamer, hustler guy. He had huge debts. So in comes these guys from Omnibus. They bought all of John and Gary's debt and they kicked them out. We showed up for work one morning and the doors were locked with guards. And they said, Digital Productions is over. They took over Robert Abel, but they made a deal with Robert Abel to stay on as the creative director. And so this new company, which we called DOA, Digital Omnibus Able, was literally DOA within a year because they really didn't know what they were doing. I mean, they really didn't understand what was going on. And so the bad news was that really almost everybody who was making their living in computer graphics in 1987 was out of work. They were on the street because these three companies went bankrupt and doors were shut. And that's when a lot of companies sprung up from that. Of course, like Metrolight and Sidley Wright and everything, and Rhythm and Hughes, and of course, Kroyer Films. I'm one of the people that, being out of work and without a job, and I'm thinking, well, what do I do now? That was when I had that kind of revelation that I understood the limitations of computer graphics. I understood it could do amazing things, but as far as doing subtle things, as far as doing the subtle acting that we could do with a pencil so easily, it still couldn't do that.
Right.
And so I thought, well, I'd like to do both together. I would like to somehow bring all the power of the computer graphics into all the power of the hand-drawn animation. How can I do that efficiently and economically enough to actually make a living? And that's when I had that idea to create that software to do hidden line removal and to make animate objects in the computer, but have them rendered as drawings and then printed out on punched animation paper as drawings, which then put them into the same world as drawings and did seamlessly. Luckily, I had a friend named Tim Heidman, who was a brilliant software guy who wrote the software, and it worked great. We immediately started a little company called Kroyer Films, and I sold a TV show, TV series called Ultracross about young people who were supercross riders who were secret agents that traveled the world disguised as ultracross racers and solving crimes. The original idea came from a guy named Michael Bryant, who himself was a motorcycle champion. And we sold the show, and we were going to do all of the animation by computer. All the motorcycle racing was going to be incredible for a television show. And it was really moving along. And then, like so many things in my career, another crash where in those days, kids' television, the profits came from the toys, right?
Sure.
So the toys in our show were obvious, the motorcycles. So they made a big Cannell Productions, who bought our show, made this big deal with a toy company in the East Coast, LJN Toys. And then about 6 months into production, LJN, they went bankrupt. And they held the rights to our show. So Cannell couldn't pull the rights out. So all of a sudden, we're sitting there in our office. We have our one computer. We've developed our software for doing this amazing technology of hidden line animation, and we're out. Cannell, the contract's gone. Cannell was very nice to us. They said, "Look, we're sorry about this. You can keep the office for a few months, but and you can also keep the computer. We're not going to ask for that back, so you can keep it." They were so great. So then we said, "Well, what do we do now?" Well, we have to show people we can do because nobody has any idea what we're talking about. So let's make a short film as a demo. And that short film became Technological Threat.
Which was nominated for an Academy Award, wasn't it? For a short
Well, that was the stunner. That was the thing that put us on the map and saved our company and sent us skyrocketing forward, It's funny how it came about because when I was making that Ultra Crust show, we animate the cycles in the computer, and then I had a Hewlett Packard plotter in the back room, and we would feed the paper, and it would just have a rapidograph, and it would draw the drawing in like 10 seconds, and it would be this incredibly perfect drawing. And so while we're doing this, all my animator friends would come by to visit. So all the people you know, like John Musker and Glenn Keane and everybody, they're all coming to see me, and they're standing over this plotter, and they're watching this thing draw, and it's drawn like lightning, and you can see in their faces, oh my God, we're going to be obsolete. This thing can draw like 10 times faster than us and 10 times better than us. You could just see it. And so I thought, that's the film. We'll make a film about traditional artists being replaced by computers. And so I said, well, what's the most stereotypical symbol of cartoons? The Tex Avery wolf. So we kind of redesigned a wolf like a Tex Avery wolf, and we had a room full of wolves, and all of a sudden they start getting replaced by computers. And then to make it even more profound, of course, we hand animated the wolves and we computer animated the computer characters. So it had that kind of like extra layer of like authenticity and legitimacy, and made the movie. And the technological threat was, and the whole thing is a metaphor that ironically, and this isn't lost on anybody, it's enduring to this day, maybe more so than ever. And that is this threat of technology, overpowering the artist. I mean, that's.
Well, I mean, to your point, with AI, with the introduction of AI and the use of AI right now, and we've talked about it quite a bit on our podcast. It's very much like the introduction of computer graphics. 40 years ago, people were, 30 years ago, when it was really starting to pick up steam. Especially at Disney, people were looking at it like, these computers are going to replace me, and it didn't really happen that way.
Not then, it didn't. But again, the thing that I've been encountering this my entire career is I've been constantly coming up with being faced with marvelous technological advances that keep moving in on the artist. And look at. You can say that, but remember when I was an animator drawing by hand, and I went to apply for Disney, I was competing with like 11 people who could draw Disney style. Now there's 20 schools in LA. They're cranking out thousands of kids who all have animation reels, because all of a sudden, instead of like 1/100th of 1% of the population that can animate by hand, almost anybody you can operate a computer can animate. And so was the initial gigantic change in the industry was that suddenly your workforce exploded, and suddenly you could make a lot of films, which is a good thing, and that's happened. Now you're getting to the point where that very technology that exploded, like you're saying, with AI is an unknown as to how much it's going to do. I mean, look, I'm already seeing people create projects and films, people with zero craft ability who can't draw a lick, and they're already doing it. They're already doing it.
Yeah.
And so what's the defense against that? Well, you would say, well, you have to be a good artist and it's true, but it's all about what the public will buy, and isn't it Walt Disney that said nobody ever lost money overestimating the taste of the American public? I mean, it's and you look at the quality of some of these things that are hits now, you go, well, how could AI do worse? So that is definitely an issue. It is definitely an ongoing thing. And that's why technological threat, which was recognized at the time, especially by the French, I will point out, as being this very important film with a very important message, got great attention. Look, the Academy was not on my, I talk a lot about how I made the film in the book. And again, it was like at skin of my teeth. I spent every last penny I had. I literally had no money even to go out to dinner. I was totally broke when I made the movie. And then I didn't understand the whole Academy thing. Ron Diamond really shepherded me through that. You can thank Ron Diamond for getting my film in and getting it nominated.
Ron Diamond has been a champion of independent filmmakers and short films for decades. I mean, he's just a terrific individual.
Yeah, so he's the one that got us in there. And then once the nomination came, and the world beat a path to our door. Everybody wanted to, to work with us and see what we could do. And we had a great time and we were making really cool stuff. And some of our work, like the opening titles to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and Return of the Pink Panther, those are become kind of evergreen film titles. We did a lot of stuff. And then, of course, the next big chapter is when the Crocodile Dundee's guys walked in the door and said, "Do you want to make a movie about fairies?"
Yeah. Well, let me just step back for a second, because I want to understand with technological threat. I want our listeners to know that when short films are considered at the Motion Picture Academy, they'll get 100 plus short films any given year from around the world submitted, and those have to be boiled down to what is the short list is 10, the Bake Off is 10, the 10 best ones, and then from the 10 best ones, it has to be the 5 nominees that come out of that, right? So
that's correct. But of course, remember 1988 when technological threat was made.
Yeah,
computer graphics was nothing.
Yeah, it was nearly non-existent.
And so you had John Lasseter had Tin Toy in there,
Yeah.
and there were no other computer graphics films. Mine was the Half Breed, right? It had half computer animation. And there were not that many films submitted. I think there were probably less than. I remember I wasn't in the Academy then yet, so I didn't have an exact count. But I do know that I was admitted the following year in the Academy, and every year, you're exactly right, we would screen all the films. And in those days, we actually screened them. We actually in person sat in a movie theater and watched every single movie and voted on it.
And by the way, I'm pretty sure I've been in the Academy since, I want to say 88 or 89. I've been in the Motion Picture Academy. So I remember those days of going into the Samuel Goldwyn Theater and sitting there for hours. And you used to be able to raise your hand when you were going to cry uncle.
The little pen light. The pen light.
Yeah, and if enough pen lights went up, they'd stop the film and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
But our listeners should know that it is a lengthy process to get down to those 5 nominations. So regardless of who wins the Academy Award, at the Oscars, those 5 films are the best of the best.
Well, that's what they strive for. And I'll say this is that by losing the Oscar to John Lasseter, obviously in retrospect, no shame in that, but it's almost better to lose, because if you win, sometimes people think you're going to be so expensive that they don't want to go to you. But when we get nominated, the fact that we didn't win didn't have any difference. People thought, well, they didn't win, so they can't be that high horse. They're probably still affordable, and we got tons of work. So,
and how long did that work last for? I mean, how long were you able to ride that wave?
Everything in my life seems to happen in 2-year periods.
Okay, so it was like 2 years.
It was 2 years until FernGully came along, and then when FernGully walked in the door, everything changed. We were a small studio. We had about 12 employees, all ex-Disney, top of the line, really nice little company in Burbank. And then these guys walk in and say, "Would you make this feature?" And we said, "You realize we have 12 people, right?" And they said, "Yeah, you can gear up." Knew nothing about animation. They just thought it was like live action. You just went out and hired a crew,
Yeah.
And so, but then, of course, from our standpoint, it was, well, how many times is somebody going to walk in the door and say, "Here's $20 million to make a movie"? So we obviously did it, and it became a remarkable thing. In some ways, it was like Tron, I mean, we had to build a studio while we were making a movie, and we did it. We did the entire thing in 2 years. We built an entire company with all the equipment of an animation company, all the hiring and all the departments, plus making the movie. We did all that and released the movie on time in 2 years. It was kind of
so from the time they walked in the door until the movie released, you're saying it was 2 years?
They walked in the door in the fall of '89. We went to Australia. We signed the deal around Christmas. And we went to Australia to do a research trip because we really were committed to making a movie about the real rainforest. We wanted to make, we wanted to make a movie. We we had this idea, this place, you don't have to invent fantasy. The rainforest is so magical. Show the real rainforest, show the real animals, show the real plants.
So you went to Australia and you went up into northern Queensland, up into the rainforest area.
We hiked up into Lamington National Forest and spent 2 weeks there. And then we spent a week, down by Byron Bay, just drawing and doing development art. And it was then, of course, that the Australians these two kind of wild producers that we had kind of sprung the news on me. They said, well, we don't actually have the approval of this movie yet. And I go, what? And they said, yeah, you have to go in now and you have to go into Sydney and you have to pitch the board of directors of the company. And I go, wow. So we immediately switched to, this kind of panic mode of doing a pitch. And we did a bunch of pictures and drawing. Vicky Jensen was
well, yeah, but let's step back for a second because I want to understand when you did this research trip, how many people went and who were they?
We didn't have many. So it was myself and Sue, of course, and then Ralph Eggleston was our production designer, and then Vicky Jensen and Dennis Venizelos were our concept artists. Mark Pompian was my head technical guy, so I brought him along. And then Tony Ficilli, who was my animation director. And
great animator.
Yeah. And he went along. Yeah, these are like
the top of the line people. Yeah.
And then Tom Klein, who was our producer. That's the crew we took. And there was one other development artist named Jean Paramon, but he didn't stay with us. He only went for that one trip and bailed when we got back to the States. But everybody else that I took stayed with us through the production. So it was a very small crew. And we went on this research trip and we took tons of photos and did sketching and everything. And then, of course, we had to make this pitch to the board of directors of the insurance company that was funding the film. Went back to Sydney and I made what I thought was a killer pitch. And not one person in the move reacted at all. I mean, these are insurance guys. They just kind of sat there. And I walked out of the room thinking, oh, no, this is all going down. And then the guys came to the hotel a couple hours later and said, well, okay, they approved it. So the movie's on. We returned from Byron Bay on like February 21st, 1990. And we released into the movie theaters February 21st, 1992. Almost literally 2 years to the day.
Wow. Yeah. And I want to step back for a second. You said Jean Paramon?
Paramon, yeah.
Paramon? Was he a little French guy? He wound up doing a lot of commercials.
Yes.
I worked extensively. I loved him. He was a wild man.
Good art. Really good artist.
Yeah, no, not just a great artist. He was just a really funny person. I did extensive work with him freelance when he was at Duck Soup.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, he was just a wonder. I have so many wonderful stories about him and doing work with him. I mean, for probably almost 2 decades. He was just a wonderful individual, a very tragic end, but very sad.
I think he did one job for us at Kroyer Films, a commercial, and I liked him. And I said, hey, I got this project coming up. You want to, do some work on it? And he said, yeah, I'd love to do it. So he ended up going to Australia. But once he got back, he wanted to go back into commercials.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think he was cut from a mold of wanting to do these like 8-10 week projects and move on to the next thing, and he was just very frenetic. He was a frenetic individual,
Isn't it funny how there are certain people that are like that? Yeah. You have to know that you get all your work out of them in the first month. They're enthused and they do tons of stuff, and then it just starts petering off, and then
and I think that's why he was really an individual, a talent that was made for the commercial world. Like he thrived on that. When he was done with the commercial, he was done. He was on to the next thing.
Right. I just remember he hardly weighed anything. He was such a skinny little guy.
Oh my gosh, he
smoking all the time. Jeez.
Yeah, he smoked, and he was just he was just a wild person. I really had such a great time with him. Anytime we met, whether it was out in Santa Monica or wherever, So he was a lot of fond memories. Sorry to sidetrack like that, but when you mentioned his name, just really brought up a lot of memories very quickly. I want to dive into FernGully and the production and some of the challenges you had, but we're starting to bump up against time again, and I kind of feel like I want to save this for next week, if you're okay with that.
Sure. A lot of times it's hard to, and you have to remember, rhythm and use is still on the horizon here.
Yeah.
I spent 10 years of rhythm and use, and that was another period of computer animation's huge advances, where we made gigantic advances in filmmaking then.
And that was after you finished FernGully.
It was after FernGully. Yeah.
So we have so much more to talk about, and I really don't want to rush through it, because we've got the FernGully production, your time at Rhythm and Use, and I also want to spend some time talking about your segueing into teaching at Chapman University and heading up the program and sort of talk a little bit about that as well. So there's a ton to talk about, folks. And I hope you'll come back with us next week when we'll have Bill Kroyer back for a third week. And I'm sure we're going to go into a fourth week, Bill, if not more. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for being back for week 2 with us. And we'll see you next week right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast is now on Patreon. Dive deeper into the world of animation, films, and behind-the-scenes stories with your hosts, Aljon Go and Dave Bossert. Not only will you be helping to keep the magic alive, but you will be part of our special community with ad-free episodes. We want to thank friend of the show, Joshua Volkert, as well as Skull Rock crew members, Steve Minch and Chris Bannis, for their support. If you would like to join our Skull Rock crew, please visit our Patreon link in our show notes or visit patreon.com/Skull Rock Podcast. Thank you for listening and for your continued support of everything we do.
Skull Rock Podcast, where you hear the stories behind the adventures.
Let's get out of here. Let's get out. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here, Lieutenant.
All right, another interview in the can with Dave. Thank you so much, Dave, for doing that interview with the wonderful Bill Kroyer, part 2. And we have more Bill coming up for Bill Kroyer month this month in September. Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was really, I think, such a great interview with one of the legends of the business, and I'm just glad I got to spend so much time with him, just talking about his career and the industry as a whole. So I think every episode over the next 5 weeks really is going to be very revealing and eye-opening to a lot of folks. So I hope our listeners continue to enjoy it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Dave, welcome back. It's always good having you. I missed you for all the weeks, and we're looking forward to having more Dave back on. And I know that Kat will probably be guesting on some shows while you continue to get situated, but we do appreciate you being back, and I'm glad to see you.
It's good to be back, but I will let our listeners know I won't be here next week because I'm going to Maine. I have to get a little bit of a creative recharge and get away from all boxes. So hopefully Kat will fill in for me next week, and then I'll see you the week after.
Absolutely. No, it's great, Dave, and I'm glad you're going on your personal retreat, seemingly. So I'm glad you're taking some time for yourself. But once again, gang, thank you for tuning in. You're here all the way to the end. We appreciate it. If you love Disney and pop culture, just consider subscribing to the show everywhere you find your podcast, including YouTube. We're there. So leave us a comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications every time we post new content. Follow us on all the socials as well. We're on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Instagram, Blue Sky. We're there. I'm going to do my best to continue to keep it updated. I know I've been falling behind, but I will keep it updated as much as possible. Definitely, though, my focus is trying to get more on YouTube, so please subscribe to that as well as Facebook. You can also check out my show They're Dining at Disney every single week. Check it out at Dining at Disney podcast. We have new episodes every week. We're going to be doing shows about the fall festivals and all the food and wine stuff happening there at Epcot, and then of course all the Halloween parties as well for Disneyland and Walt Disney World. Feel free to email myself, Aljon, ALJON, at skullrockpodcast.com, and Dave at skullrockpodcast.com, and also sending a shout out to our friends at Sorcerer Radio at srsounds.com. All Disney music all day long. Dave?
Well, Aljon, as everybody knows, I also do a little show called The Tunes Behind the Tunes on Sirius XM, Disney Hits, Channel 133. And all during the month of September, we're featuring the song Miracle of Molecules from Disneyland's Adventure Through Inner Space attraction.
I love it.
The song was written by the Sherman Brothers, and I give a little background on that. It's really quite a fun song. It's very kitschy. I hope people get a chance to catch that. Also, you can always go to theoldmillpress.com for any of my books. I get signed copies of many of my books, including Find Your Happy Place, the 8-step guide to boosting your creativity through a personal retreat, which I'm going on my personal retreat next week up to Maine. You can also check out my personal website, davidbossert.com. There's all kinds of free content and free stuff there. I will let everybody know I am upgrading and refreshing all of the websites in the next couple of months. So there you have it. I also want to ask our listeners if they have suggestions for future guests.
There you go.
And if you do, send us an email. Let us know who you'd like us to talk to. We've got a lot of interviews already banked through the beginning of 2026. But we're going to be going into a period of more interviewing so that we can get more shows for next year. So if there's somebody you're interested in hearing from, let us know, and we'll try and reach out to that person. All right. With that, Aljon, I'm going to say go out, have a fantastic short week, because it's only a 4-day work week. This is Labor Day weekend, my friends. Go out and have a fantastic week. Be kind to one another, and we'll see you back here next Monday, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.
Hey, gang. It's time now for a Disney travel deal. This week, Kristen has an awesome deal for you. If you're interested in some sailings, Kristen, what is our travel deal for this week?
I've got a few. I'm talking cruises this week, though.
Oh.
So kicking it off is Disney Cruise Line, and right now they have a very limited time offer. They don't run this very often, so this is a big deal. They're going to have 50% off the third and fourth guest on select sailings. And this is going to be for the Disney Magic, the Wonder, Dream, Fantasy, and Wish for sailing dates beginning October 3rd, and it's going to be through March 30th, so of next year. So that's a good bit of time to take a cruise, save some money, but you must book by October 12th. So you got till then. For those of you looking to cruise, another great deal going on right now. And this goes until the 31st, I believe, of August. You can take advantage of this deal on Royal Caribbean. 60% off the second person, third and fourth guest sail free. On top of that, they have a Labor Day deal where you can get up to 40% off on beverage packages, as well as up to a $50 bonus on the Caribbean cruises. The clock is ticking. Literally, they have it on the site.
Oh.
The hours, minutes, and seconds until the deal ends.
Oh, that's good.
But they've got tons of cruises that go out of Port Canaveral. The Star of the Seas, which just set sail, the newest ship from them right now, is a part of this deal. So if you're looking to cruise, I highly recommend taking advantage of this.
Awesome. Well, how can people take advantage of this or any other cruise deal, or maybe take advantage of some Universal deals?
Well, they can contact me at Kristen, Kristen, at Magical Journeys Travel.